What's going on, everybody? Let's talk about how to get 2,000 real targeted followers on your Instagram account. All right, guys, if you haven't already, make sure and follow me on Instagram. I'll make my Instagram pop up right here. Now let's get into it. So you're either going to need an iPhone or an iPad for this, and you're going to need to download an app from the App Store. So I've got my iPhone right here. I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to start a screen recording. I'm going to go into the App Store. And then I'm going to search for an app called Captivate. Then what you want to do is just click that cloud there and install it. Once that's installed, go ahead and open it. Up to you if you want to allow notifications. Log in with Instagram. Click read. You got to read the terms and conditions. Click agree. Okay, log in with Instagram. Here you're going to put your Instagram handle, your password, and then hit login. Kind of silly they ask us to do this right here because you haven't even used it yet, but I'm just going to click I don't like it for now because I don't like that they asked me that. All right, and now at this point is where you want to start working on your targeting. Like I said in the intro and in the title, this is a way to find targeted, real Instagram followers. So what you want to do is first, whatever your account is built around, whatever your niche is, you want to go find other big accounts that are active with lots of followers and lots of engagement that are related to your account or your niche. So I'm going to use my account, for example, and my niche. So I do online business. I've created and launched multiple 6- and 7-figure passive internet businesses. And I've just recently started the endeavor of social media. So one place that I go, because I know there are tons of entrepreneur, business-minded, online business people there on this account, is Gary Vaynerchuk's account. Okay, so right here at the bottom, you'll see the menu, Discover, Search, Following, and Settings. What we want to do right now is click on Search, and then click into the search bar. And this is where we want to type in those accounts that are similar to what our account is or what our niche is. So like I said, we're using Gary Vaynerchuk as the example because that's what's related to my account. So I'm going to type in Gary, and he pops up right there. I'm going to click into his profile. And now there's two different approaches that you can use here. So one is clicking into the followers by just clicking on that 2.9 million up there. And then that will start to load his followers. If you look at the very bottom right corner, it says 200 loaded. So out of those, how many million was it? 2.9 million. So out of those 2.9 million, it's only loaded 200 users. So what we can do to load more than that is come up here and click on Actions in the top right corner. Click Auto Load Users. And then you can type in the number of users, the number of accounts, followers that you want to load. So let's say you want to load 500. I'll type in 500, click Load Users, and now that's going to load. And as you watch the number in the bottom right, that will change and grow. Now we're at 400. It's going to process one more time, and then we'll be at 500. All right, so now 500 are loaded. So what you do want to do now is click on Quick Select, select all, and then top right, click on Actions, click on Follow, and then click Add to Local Queue. Boom, added to local queue. Okay, so now what we want to do is back out of this. We're going to go back into this, but I'm going to back out for now. And come down here to the bottom right and click on Settings. Okay, now we're in the Settings. And if you look under Local Action, click on Pending Queue, you'll see that all those 500 followers, you'll see that all those 500 people that we just added to the queue are all sitting right here with the command to follow each one of them. As you can see, it says follow, and then the Insta handle, follow, Insta handle, follow, Insta handle. So these are all set in our queue to be followed. So now what we want to do is pick our settings, and we get to choose the quantity of people that we follow and the amount of time that passes in between each follow. So back here in the app, now that we have some people loaded into our queue, we want to click on night mode, and then I'll give you this pop-up right here, tell you a little bit about night mode. Now here's where you want to select your settings. So let me draw your attention to under this first section here, under stop on arrows, there's this light gray text. It says to avoid Instagram limits, the default setting is to execute one action every 90 seconds. So Instagram limits. Instagram's algorithm basically has stopped people from mass following and mass unfollowing. And you can actually only follow up to, I think, 6,500 or 7,500 people. And then you're just not allowed to follow anymore. So Instagram limits is basically if Instagram sees that an account is trying to mass follow or unfollow or mass like or any of that, like just doing too much too fast, then Instagram will actually ding you and kind of block you, will block you from being able to follow and unfollow people for, I don't know, 24 hours or so. And then if you keep pushing that harder and harder, then they can eventually just like suspend your account, shut it down, whatever. But so what it's saying here is the default setting is to execute one action every 90 seconds. So that's Captivate's default settings to help you so you don't run into any Instagram limits and don't get dinged by Instagram. So if we look right here under options, we see execute one action. So execute just means like in our queue right now, right, we have 500 people that we want to follow. And right now this option, this setting is set to execute one action. So that just means one person will be followed. That's one action that's executed. One thing that we have sitting in that queue, whether it's to follow or unfollow someone, when that happens, that's an action being executed. So what we can do is we can change this setting and decide how many actions we want to execute at one time. So if we click in here, click on execute one action, it brings up this menu and allows us to select 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 actions, or we can set a custom value, and here we can type in a number between 1 and 200 and select for that number of actions. So if we put 5 right here, that means when we execute an action, it's going to execute 5 of them at one time. So if we leave it set to this, when an action occurs, it's going to follow 5 people from our pending queue all at once instead of just one and then another one 90 seconds later and then another one 90 seconds later. So if we look down to the second row, it says every 90 seconds. So right now it's set to execute 5 actions every 90 seconds. So every 90 seconds, Captivate is going to follow 5 people from our queue. And then the next 90 seconds, 5 more people. Next 90 seconds, 5 more people. Now, Captivate is telling us that they set their limit default setting to one action every 90 seconds, and they're recommending that that's a safer way to do this, which I've found to be quite true, and I'll explain a little bit more about that a little later on. But executing 5 actions every 90 seconds, I would say, is excessive, and you're not going to be able to get away with that for an extended period of time. Instagram's going to flag you for it. So I'm going to switch that just back to 1, okay? And then random delay. I really like to use the random delay. I think it helps a lot to kind of throw off Instagram. Because if you're like every 90 seconds on the dot or whatever amount of time you choose, but if it's that exact same increment of time that passes and then follows happen, exact same increment of time, then follows happen, that's pretty easy for Instagram's algorithm to pick up, I think. So I actually like to always have a random delay set, and I usually go with 60 seconds or 30 seconds. So I'm going to go 60 seconds for this one. And that just means instead of every 90 seconds on the dot, they're going to put a 60-second delay in between some of those. Screensaver, screen dimmer, stop on errors. Okay, I'm going to screensaver, screen dimmer. That's up to you. Stop on errors, though, make sure you have that active. Because what Captivate will do is as you're going about following or unfollowing people, if Instagram like kind of flags you for that, then instead of Captivate continuing to run and pissing off Instagram even more, it will just pause your Captivate app. It'll stop it. So you won't run any more actions, and that way you don't get in any more trouble with Instagram. So always good to leave that on. So if something does happen, it doesn't just continue to run and make Instagram mad. It shuts off, and then you can wait, I don't know, 12, 24 hours or whatever, start to run it again without any problem. All right, and then if we look down here under stats, we see the status is stopped right now. We're not running. Pending actions 500. That's showing us how many actions are in our pending queue. Executed action 0 because we haven't ran any yet. Errors 0. So if I come up here and click start right now, you'll see that the executed actions down here will change to 1. So I'm going to click start. And now it just went into the dim night mode. I don't know if I'm doing a screen recording on my phone. Not sure if you actually saw that go dim or if it's still lit or not, but you can see the icons floating across the screen, meaning it's entered night mode. Executed actions is currently 1. So in about 90 seconds from now, it'll execute another action, and I'll have now followed 2 people out of those 500. And so you can just sit this down and let it run, and it'll keep following people at the settings you selected. And one thing that's kind of a bummer about this is while you're running this, you can't use your phone at all. You just have to like let it sit there with the app open and run. So if you're really serious about this, maybe look into getting a second device, like another iPad or iPhone for cheap or whatever, and then download the Captivate app, and then you can just leave that. You can dedicate that device to running Captivate 24/7 if you're serious about targeting and gaining a lot of Instagram followers fast. All right, so I'm going to stop this now. Stop night mode. I'm going to close it. I'm going to go to my pending queue here. I'm going to click on actions. I'm going to click cancel local actions. Yes. And now my queue is completely cleared. So now I'm going to go back over to search. Like I said, I was going to show you 2 different ways that you can go about finding people to follow. So we're going to use Gary Vee again. And instead of jumping right into his followers, I actually prefer to do it this way. Doing it this way, I think you are able to target people that are a little bit more active and engaged on Instagram, which is going to be great for your account and your profile. And so what I like to do is go to the most recent post and click into the likes. So where it says right there 30.7K likes, I click on that. And then it's gonna bring in all of those people that have liked Gary Vee's most recent post. And then you can see in the bottom right corner, it's loaded 999. You can load some more if you want. But if that's good for you, click on Quick Select, Select All, Actions, Follow, Add to Local Queue. Those were added to the queue, so I'm going to back out of all this, go back to my settings, and if we look down here, I'm going to click into night mode, close that. Now if we look in the pending actions section down here, we see that there's 999 actions pending. If I click start, you see that it executed 1 action, and same thing again, every 90 seconds with a 60-second delay, it'll follow 1 person out of that list. All right, so I'm going to stop that and show you one more thing in here. If you click on the 3rd icon over in the bottom menu where it says following, click on that. And then this shows you all the people that you're currently following. So as you go about following a lot of people, you don't want to continue following them, especially because you're going to reach a cap at, like I said, 6,500 or 7,500. Can't remember exactly which one, but Instagram just doesn't allow you to follow people past that. So you need a way to unfollow people, and you can use Captivate to do exactly that. Click into your following. Right here it has 200 loaded. You could load more if you want, same way we did it before. I'm just going to use these 200 as an example. Quick select. Select all, actions in the top right corner, click that. Now I'm going to click unfollow, and I'm going to add to local queue. And then I'm going to click on settings in the bottom right, go to night mode, and if we look down here, pending actions, 1198. So I added those 200 on top of those ones we already had there to follow. So once it's executed all of those follow actions, it'll start to unfollow the people that I just added to the queue. Okay, and lastly, one last trick with the settings here. One thing that I found that works really well for me is, so basically 90 seconds, they recommend 90 seconds. They recommend executing 1 action every 90 seconds. So that's 2 actions every 180 seconds, right? So what I've found works really well is setting it to like 200 seconds. So if you come in here to every custom value, type in 200, and then random delay, let's just change that to 30 seconds. Okay, and then 1 action, let's actually change that to 2, or maybe even 3, but 2. So now you're executing 2 actions every 200 seconds, which still basically comes out to the same number of executed actions for the same amount of time that's passed, but it leaves longer amounts of time in between, which I think, and from what I've seen, throws off Instagram's, algorithm or watchdogs a little bit, so to speak. So that's a good thing I like to do. You can play around with these settings a lot. The main thing is just don't do too much too fast. Space it out, be calm about it. Okay, now from here, once you've followed all these people, a lot of them will start to follow you back. I'm seeing about anywhere from 10 to 20% that follow me back, which is great. But by no means that should be the end of you growing your Instagram account, right? Now that you have these people following you, well, now it's your job to actually convert these people into real true followers, right? Like they're targeted, you're in the same niche, they're going to like your stuff, but now it's time for you to deliver good content, value that makes them stay. And if you want to hear some of my tips and tricks for doing that, make sure and smash that subscribe button and enable notifications, because I'll be dropping a video showing you and giving you some of my tips and tricks for how to make sure all those people that are following you keep following you. Boom! That's a wrap on today's video. I hope it's been helpful for you. Get out there, get your Instagram growing, and if you haven't already, where's that button at? Oh, it's so hard. Just hit that subscribe button, drop a like, enable notifications so you know exactly when I drop a new video. But most importantly,